Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here. We're actually traveling back about 250 years today to explore a conflict that literally built the world we live in. And hey, here's the secret about history. It's definitely not just a bunch of dusty dates in old documents. The exact same emotions, frustrations, and brilliant ideas that sparked the American Revolution, yeah, those are things you experience every single day.
Just think about it for a second. Have you ever been handed a rule like maybe a sudden new curfew, a strict dress code, or a hard limit on your screen time that you had absolutely zero say in creating? It is incredibly frustrating, right? You just feel powerless. You feel like your side of the story completely doesn't matter. Well, I want you to hold on to that exact feeling of frustration. Because if you multiply that feeling by an entire continent, that is exactly how the American Revolution started. Section 1. The Power of a Voice. Historical Foundations.
Okay, let's dive into this. Before we talk about taxes or tea parties, we really have to talk about what it means to actually have a voice. There's a scripture from Proverbs 31:8 that perfectly sets the moral compass for everything we're about to discuss. It says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves." This establishes a really fundamental truth. Everyone deserves to be heard. Because when people are silenced, unfairness has room to thrive. Having a voice isn't just a political right, it is a basic moral foundation.
So how exactly do we make sure millions of people actually have a voice? Well, we do it through something called representation. Representation is simply the tool that gives everyday people their voice in government. It basically means you get to help choose the people who make the rules you have to live by. When you have representation, you have power. And when you don't, well, that leads us right to our next point. Section 2. Rules without representation. Causes of revolution. Let's see how this all built up into a massive historical conflict between the American colonists and Great Britain. Just picture the geographical and political divide going on here. On one side of the ocean, you have Parliament in London, the British government, creating laws and demanding taxes. But on the other side of the ocean, thousands of miles away, you have the American colonists who are being forced to obey these laws. The catch? The colonists didn't have a single person representing them in Parliament. Not one. The British government was making decisions for them completely without their input, which the colonists rightly argued violated their basic rights. Now, I want you to really think about this for a second. Why was the lack of representation such a massive problem for the colonists? Like, was it just about the money? Were they just being stubborn? The crucial point is that it was really about protecting their basic interests. They absolutely needed a voice in how new laws were shaped. They demanded control over how they were taxed, and ultimately, they wanted to ensure that the decisions being made actually reflected the realities of living in America, rather than just serving the interests of politicians sitting way over in London. This burning desire to be heard is exactly what birthed that famous rallying cry you've probably heard: no taxation without representation. Section 3. America's first viral memes, political cartoons. But here's the thing. How do you get 13 very different, totally separated colonies to all agree on this? How do you spread the word in the 1700s, way before the internet or social media? Well, you create the 18th century equivalent of a viral meme. Behold one of the most famous pieces of political commentary in American history. Created by Benjamin Franklin, this image of a severed snake paired with the legendary slogan, "Join or Die," was a truly revolutionary way to communicate. Now, what's really interesting about this is the psychology behind it. What message does join or die actually send? It's just a simple drawing of a snake, sure, but it was sending a profound, literal, life-or-death message to anyone who looked at it. Franklin's core message here was all about survival. He was telling the colonists that they had to unite immediately. If they remained divided, kind of like a chopped-up snake, they would easily be destroyed by outside threats, whether that was the French or eventually the British government itself. But if they banded together, there would be safety in numbers. Unity would provide the strength they needed to stand tall. Working together was practically their only hope. Section 4. Visualizing the Revolution. Visual Persuasion. Let's dig a little deeper into the actual mechanics of visual persuasion. How do political cartoons persuade people and spread ideas so incredibly fast? Think about it. Why could a simple drawing in a newspaper unite an entire continent better than a 1,000-page essay written by the smartest philosopher of the time? It turns out cartoonists used a brilliantly simple formula. Step 1, use easily recognizable symbols, things like snakes or dragons that everyone immediately understood. Step 2, add humor to mock the opponent. They made the powerful British government look silly or foolish. And step 3, use massive exaggeration to make the point crystal clear. You didn't have to be a political expert to look at one of these cartoons and instantly get the joke and the message. This shows perfectly why these historical memes were such a game changer. Back then, not everyone could read complex political essays, but literally anyone could understand a picture. Images are memorable. They're super easy to share and talk about at the local tavern. Most importantly, they completely bridge the gap for those with limited literacy. Visual persuasion was the glue that rallied people together across all 13 colonies.
Section 5. Smart Minds, Good Choices, Biblical Morality. Now, as we wrap up our historical journey today, I want to bring this right back to you. We've talked a lot about the power of having a voice, but it's equally important to talk about how you actually use that voice. And this brings us directly to the philosophy at the heart of the heroesmartacademy Godly Learners series. We intertwine biblical morality with education for a very specific reason, because education without morality will ultimately lead to bad choices and hurt. I mean, ask yourselves, what is the point of being highly educated, knowing all the historical facts and scientific formulas, if you lack the moral compass to avoid hurting yourself and the people around you? Being smart is fantastic, but pairing that intelligence with strong biblical character, that is what leads to true wisdom and peace. This is a huge foundational truth for us. Romans 8:6-7 promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps his or her mind spiritual. And honestly, this is exactly what we see every day, as well as the experience of the people who engage with our content. When you align your learning with a spiritual, moral foundation, you don't just become smarter, you become a force for good. You become someone who actively uses their voice to build up rather than tear down. So I'm going to leave you with this final challenge. The colonists used their voices, their artistic skills, and their moral outrage to literally change the world with just a few strokes of a pen. Take a look around your world today. What modern issue matters to you? If you were to draw a political cartoon to persuade your peers right now, what would it be? Think about how you can use your voice, guided by your own moral compass, to brilliantly illustrate a truth today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to see how you use your voice.